Well, here we are, late morning, Saturday, February 28th, 2026. Earlier this morning, before dawn, you may have heard that America and Israel teaming up, going to war with Iran, as many people predicted. Before we play President Trump's message, which, of course, a lot of the war whores are cheering. I'm sure that Senator Lindsey Graham is probably aroused at this point, just watching, the video of stuff blowing up in Iran. And he's probably texting Bibi back and forth, along with Mike Huckabee and the rest of them. Okay. Before we get into the president's message, first of all, it goes without saying that we are praying for the safety of anyone who's innocent. We're also, we're praying for the safety of innocent civilians. And of course, we're praying for the safety of the American military. But I just want to get you set up with the talking points, especially if you're a podcaster or if you're in the media, major cable news network, maybe you're in the GOP. You guys need to know the talking points because it's going to be a very crazy weekend. It's already knock the pile of preparation over for me today. So I'm doing this and instead of the other story I had planned, which can wait. But again, if you have a second, I just want to review the talking points of the day, what you are allowed to say, what you should not say, what you will be penalized for saying. Okay. So we're at a state of war. We're in a state of war, which changes the dynamic of everything. Anybody can attack you for, undermining the mission or not caring about the United States or being anti-American or being a threat to security. So I'm just letting you know that that comes with war, right? And that's where we are now because that was the plan to get into this war. I thought it would have been the first year of Trump's second term. I was a little off. So let's just review these talking points. No more talk about the Epstein files. No more talk about Epstein. We can't because we're fighting. We're fighting for America. This is it. It was critical. It was critical. That's the talking point. If we didn't get in there and stop their nuclear weapons, what you'll notice about these talking points, they're identical to Gulf One and Gulf Two, Global War on Terror, identical talking points. Identical, imminent threat from 50,000 miles away, another state, another state pushing us in, cheering us on, and the propaganda machine is working overtime. And you'll hear the propaganda machine and the talking points in President Donald Trump's announcement from earlier this morning. So let's review. No more talk of the Epstein files. Zero criticism on Israel, especially this week. I mean, preferably never. You never criticize Israel. You never criticize people that believe they're the chosen people. Do not ever mention the word Zionism in any conversation or genocide, okay? I'm just giving you the updated rules now that we're at the war that most of us predicted. If you do not support this policy, you're anti-American. If you do not support what we are doing in Gaza, in Iran right now, you're Hamas. So just be clear about that. Don't think you're going to show up on some conservative talk radio show or podcast and say, this is horrible what's happening in Iran. I mean, a lot of their infrastructure is being destroyed and you're Hamas. Okay? You know how the rules work. Okay? Good. No more talk about Charlie Kirk. We've got to stop that talk about Charlie Kirk. Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, two of the most honest people in government. That's sarcasm. They gave us the story, even though 48 hours ago we found out it was 99.99% impossible that that piece of garbage 30-06 prop gun was actually used to kill Charlie. And we're also finding out that Robinson, is that his name, Tyler Robinson, the killer, is not, he wasn't there. He wasn't where the gun was. So it's like you need a weapon, right? You need a murder weapon. Oops. You need somebody there. You have to put him there. Oops. So even though it was bogus and Kirk's assassination was probably an inside job, as most political assassinations are, most political assassinations historically, again, I encourage you to go back to history because people today are a lot of the war whores or people that are programmed, and they're different. I'm not saying that everybody who is cheering this on is necessarily a war whore, which is my name for, that's another name for neocon. I just call it what it is. These people want war, and that's how they get territory. That's how they roll. That's how they roll. Whether it's Ukraine, no matter where it is. Okay? If you criticize any aspect of this, okay, you're either an anti-Semite or you're anti-American. So just so you know, as far as the propagandists go, and which occupy most conservative media, there's always a team of propagandists in there, people that don't want to stop and actually break things down and argue it coherently, and people that will never bring up some of the root issues or causes of these problems, maybe for the past 100 years. You're not allowed to. But just remember, you have a couple options today in your talking points. If someone is against this, you can say, what are you, an anti-Semite? I figured you were an anti-Semite. Or you could say, what happened to you? Why are you so anti-American now? Don't you support our troops? I fell for that twice. I've always supported our troops. I grew up supporting our troops. I grew up during the Vietnam era. My dad and I would watch the news and the MIA count and the KIA count. And we wore the bracelets, the MIA bracelets of the pilots. And we welcomed our boys home. I was growing up in Florida. There was a guy that lived right across the street from me that got back and he was injured. So I was pretty well versed. I was probably better well versed on the Vietnam War and supporting our troops in an almost impossible situation. I was probably better well versed at that 8, 9, 10, 11 years old than half the people on friggin' news panels are today. So I'm just so tired and bored of the same talking points. Okay? We should not be in Gaza. We should not be in the Ukraine. We should not be using these bright young men and women, dedicated young men and women, and all the equipment that you and I paid for to extend ourselves thousands and thousands of miles all over the world and call it democracy or protecting the homeland or whatever other crap that I fell for in Gulf One and then 9/11. Okay? That's my take on it. There is no doubt that I support the troops and I love the men and women in the military and I love this country because it is still the greatest country on earth. So spare me with the talking points. They might work for people that don't have the stones to get back in your face and point out the fact that Bibi Netanyahu is a part of our government. That's okay. They'll back down. Well, no, I'm not an anti-Semite. I don't know. I love it. My friend is in the military. Okay. We have no business over there because we have been listening to fake intel and fake information and propaganda about the Middle East. Well, I'm going to go back and say it started around 1917. It's always been BS. There's always a little bit of truth because that's what propaganda is. For example, what you're going to see now over the weekend Iran has already started to retaliate against American bases. So those are the fresh headlines. So now that's part of the other talking point. So who started all this? Israel, long before October 7th. But you're not allowed to talk about that. You're just going to have to stick to the talking points. Again, do not ever question October 7th. Do not ever question 9/11. Do not ever say Bush was a bad president, because you'll get the same propaganda crap back at you. You don't support the military, you're anti-American. What happened to you? I thought you were a conservative. Conservatives never wanted to go around the world and just blow crap up. We want a strong military that if you come into our homeland, in our face, like over our border for the last 30 years, or if you build drug cartels in Chicago, we wanted to bury you. This ridiculousness about blowing up caves and assigning fake terrorist labels to anybody is absurd, whether it's the London bombing or any number of other terrorist operations, and then trying to convince people on Main Street in the United States that this is we got to go. What do you mean we got to go? I mean, there is a small group of people that hate us. Hell, there's a small group of people that hate us in New York City. There's always going to be a small group of people that hate us, but we have the greatest military in the world, and we have the greatest intelligence in the world, and still, we can't even get Charlie Kirk's murder right. That's because it's intentional. It's intentional. When you see something as grand as 9/11 and you don't understand that part of that was inside, if you see October 7th and you don't understand that there were people on the Israeli side that needed that to happen, then you have zero understanding of history. If you are still believing that the Muslim child is born and then from age 1 they're programmed to hate us all, it's despicable. It's despicable. This is where people will say, what are you, pro-Hamas? I didn't know you were a Palestine this, and stop. You've been using this. That's what's so sad about President Trump's speech last night. And I voted for the guy 3 times. So shut up if you're going to say, well, what are you, an anti-Trump? Okay, stop it. Okay, now remember what you're not allowed to talk about. Charlie Kirk, Epstein, the national debt of $40 trillion, the new surveillance system, which is AI now, which has been approved. No talk about that, because on the campaign trail, all that was going to disappear. Remember? And here we are with the greatest distraction and the greatest financial investment for the elite trillionaires and billionaires in the history of this country. It started even before the Civil War. You can't go wrong with war as a distraction. And half the wars we fought, we get in over currency and wealth and geopolitical positioning on a chessboard. It's rarely the crap that they tell us. Vietnam. And yet we just do it over and over and over and over and over again. And we've attached all these labels to people. Well, Ken, you're a conservative host. What are you doing? What are you doing? You're supposed to cheer the death. I don't ever cheer death. You cannot be a Christian and cheer death. You cannot be a Christian and say, kill them all. Blow their arms off. Teach them a lesson. You can't, that's not Christian. Christian is if you hurt one of God's children, then you should be thrown in the sea with a rock attached to your legs, like drowned, like killed. That's Christian, right? That's Christian. Or if you want to get, again, people cherry pick the Bible, let's go for an eye, right? Let's go down that road. Has Iran attacked your school? I know this is the wrong talk. I'm just giving you the outline for the weekend. There will be no common sense. And sadly, some of the common sense will bubble up on networks that I hate. And some of the legitimate questions will come out of the mouths of people that I think are total asshats, but they'll still make more sense than some of the people in the party that I used to be a part of. I just don't automatically cheer for this. But I just wanted to give you the talking points. And last but not least, never discuss the Israelis, the nuclear weapons program of Israel. Never discuss that. They stole that technology from us, and then Huckabee rewarded the spy who's living free in Israel right now. Our own ambassador rewarded him by a delightful interview. I don't know what's happening here. Well, no, I do know what's happening. History repeats itself over and over and over and over and over because our governments think we're stupid. And apparently, there's still enough of us left that are stupid that this will continue. This will continue. All right, let's go. Let's go to President Trump's comment from last night because I can feel my blood pressure going up. Hold on. Okay, here we go. All right, let's give it a listen. You tell me how true you think this is. Okay?
A short time ago, the United States military began major combat operations in Iran. Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, a vicious group of very hard, terrible people. Its menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world.
Okay. I hate to jump in here. I'm not going to do this. I might do this 2 or 3 more times, but this is a very short segment. Then we're going to wrap it up because I want to get outside. It's supposed to be in the 50s today, and before the war demonstrations and the anti-war demonstrations start, and the president makes another statement by Monday about how we've got to tweak the Constitution just a little bit because some of these people online are they're endangering our troops because they're not supporting bombing the crap out of the Middle East again so Israel can get some more turf. Before all that happens, I'd like to get some work in my yard done because it's going to be, like I said, in the low 50s. So it's going to be beautiful out. So I just want to point out to the fact that he said they're endangering our troops. They're blowing up our bases. This is what he's saying Iran is doing and has done. And it has done that. But now what Iran is doing is retaliating because remember, we were supposed to be talking with Iran next week more about this peace thing. But Israel's on a schedule, okay? They're on a schedule, a timeline, if you will, to get things done. And the more President Trump talks to Israel's enemies, and the more we sit down and learn more about the dynamic of the Middle East, the more we learn how full of crap Bibi Netanyahu has been for the last 30 to 40 years, or even before. So they got to jack this thing up. So unfortunately, the propagandist and the people that run our government and that run President Trump and probably Bibi, I mean, I would imagine there's somebody above Bibi as well. They need to see American coffins, and that will keep this going. That's how you keep it going. That's how you keep it going. And the only way to get that done is just to keep blowing up crap until the person snaps and says, all right, start hitting their bases. Even though they know when you hit our bases, you're going to start a massive campaign, and then America will bomb your country into rubble, and then we'll leave like we left Afghanistan. And then all the people that were told, rise up, rise up and take over your government. We have your back. Well, they'll get tortured and horrible things will happen to them. So Iran knows all this. And I do believe that there was an opportunity there for peace, just like there was an opportunity for peace 3 years ago in Ukraine. But the people in charge don't want it. So by Monday, I am sad to say there probably will be American loss of life. And that will be the photo op and the talking point that Fox and Friends needs to have Bibi on the show again so we can all cheer on the destruction of another Muslim country. What do you think?
For 47 years, the Iranian regime has chanted death to America and waged an unending campaign of bloodshed and mass murder, targeting the United States, our troops, and the innocent people in many, many countries. Among the regime's very first acts was to back a violent takeover of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, holding dozens of American hostages for 444 days.
1979. So the president of the United States, in less than 10 minutes, is going over every single item that really upsets Americans, and rightly so. But he's going to leave out the truth behind some of those items, okay? Just like we leave the truth out of the establishment of the Israeli state and what happened in 17 and what happened in 38 and what happened in 48 and what happened in 67 and what happened in 43. We're going to leave all that out. And now he's going to grocery list everything that some group of nuts, Muslim extreme nuts, which truly hate America and truly hate innocent people. He's going to grocery list that. And then other morons are going to pull this as talking points. And there will even be some people that will hear this and say, well, I heard they took over the embassy. Yeah, I heard they took over. And then didn't they blow up the Marines as well? Didn't the terrorists blow up the Marines? They blew up the Marines. Yeah, I was on the air that day. That happened in 1983. I remember it well, and it was awful. But as you go further deeper into it, you find out that that was another horrible international crime created by several different actors. Anyway, let's go back.
In 1983, Iran's proxies carried out the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut that killed 241 American military personnel. In 2000, they knew and were probably involved with the attack on the USS Cole. Many died. Iranian forces killed and maimed hundreds of American service members in Iraq. The regime's proxies have continued to launch countless attacks against American forces stationed in the Middle East in recent years, as well as U.S. naval and commercial vessels in international shipping lanes. It's been mass terror, and we're not going to put up with it any longer. From Lebanon to Yemen and Syria to Iraq, the regime has armed, trained, and funded terrorist militias that have soaked the earth with blood and guts. And it was Iran's proxy, Hamas, that launched the monstrous October 7th attacks on Israel, slaughtering more than 1,000 innocent people, including 46 Americans, while taking 12 of our citizens hostage. It was brutal, something like the world has never seen before. Iran is the world's #1 state sponsor of terror and just recently killed tens of thousands of its own citizens on the street as they protested. It has always been the policy of the United States, in particular, my administration, that this terrorist regime can never have a nuclear weapon. I'll say it again. They can never have a nuclear weapon. That is why in Operation Midnight Hammer last June, we obliterated the regime's nuclear program at Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. After that attack, we warned them never to resume their malicious pursuit of nuclear weapons, and we sought repeatedly to make a deal. We tried. They wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. Again, they wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it.
You know who didn't want to do it? Israel. Because Israel knows, because they've done it before, the Israeli government, Bibi and team, they've done it before. They know the buttons to push with you and me. They know those buttons. They know that young American servicemen and women being destroyed by homemade bombs and IEDs. They know what the button is. And there are some people in the Israeli administration. And again, you're not allowed to say this. So again, I'm warning you for the talking points. Take it from someone who's taken the hit, okay? If you go down this road and you're not getting paid by some Israeli-backed entity, or your company isn't pro-Israel, you're going to be in trouble. So if your country, well, it's how funny our government is pro-Israel. I don't know why. I don't understand it. I still don't. I ask people things like, why do you say Israel is our greatest ally? And then they attack me. They don't. So here's why. It's the craziest thing. But again, and I'm tongue in cheek when I warn people, because nobody that needs a warning is watching this. You know, if you're on a mega podcast and you have 7 trillion views and you've been at Mar-a-Lago 9 times and you were holding up an Epstein file empty binder as a prop, you certainly don't care about advice from anybody in the American public. You care about clicks and big money support and support of the government and access to our government, because when you criticize our government, you lose access. And there's a lot of leaders in the media who are cowards, and they will not tolerate a vigorous, open, honest debate based on critical thinking. Not once have I said anything anti-Semitic here. Not once have I said anything anti-United States government or anti-military. Hell, I haven't even said anything anti-Trump. But it doesn't matter, because when the propaganda envelops whatever you're doing, the sheeple will follow. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. And to hear this being recycled over and over and over, war after war after war, the money, oh my gosh, the money. They're saying that the AI recon and intelligence gathering capabilities, that now that the war has started, they're all going to do billions of dollars this year. It kind of reminds me of how much Pfizer did with that piece of crap vaccine. It does remind me about, it does kind of remind me that, because we had everybody like focused in on it. I'm sorry, let's get back to the president. He's just got a few more minutes.
They didn't know what was happening. They just wanted to practice evil. But Iran refused, just as it has for decades and decades. They've rejected every opportunity to renounce their nuclear ambitions, and we can't take it anymore. Instead, they attempted to rebuild their nuclear program and to continue developing long-range missiles that can now threaten our very good friends and allies in Europe, our troops stationed overseas, and could soon reach the American homeland. Just imagine how emboldened this regime would be if they ever had and actually were armed with nuclear weapons as a means to deliver their message. For these reasons, the United States military is undertaking a massive and ongoing operation to prevent this very wicked, radical dictatorship from threatening America and our core national security interests. We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated. We're going to annihilate their Navy. We're going to ensure that the region's terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region or the world and attack our forces and no longer use their IEDs or roadside bombs, as they are sometimes called, to so gravely wound and kill thousands and thousands of people, including many Americans. And we will ensure that Iran does not obtain a nuclear weapon. It's a very simple message. They will never have a nuclear weapon. This regime will soon learn that no one should challenge the strength and might of the United States Armed Forces. I built and rebuilt our military in my first administration, and there is no military on earth even close to its power, strength, or sophistication. My administration has taken every possible step to minimize the risk to U.S. personnel in the region. Even so, and I do not make this statement lightly, the Iranian regime seeks to kill. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission. We pray for every service member as they selflessly risk their lives to ensure that Americans and our children will never be threatened by a nuclear-armed Iran. We ask God to protect all of our heroes in harm's way, and we trust that, with his help, the men and women of the armed forces will prevail. We have the greatest in the world, and they will prevail. To the members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the armed forces, and all of the police, I say tonight that you must lay down your weapons and have complete immunity, or, in the alternative, face certain death. So, lay down your arms. You will be treated fairly with total immunity, or you will face certain death. Finally, to the great, proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand.
I want you to listen to this last part that you just heard the whole thing. And again, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just want some. I know we have a lot of critical thinkers here. Now, my audience knows me well enough. You know exactly where I'm coming from on this. You know what I'm talking about. You know exactly the issues that we're walking into here. And a lot of my audience is very savvy and very well read historically. And you know, this is you could take an outline from Vietnam or Korea or Gulf One or Gulf Two. Hell, you can take an outline from most wars, and it fits the same pattern. Okay, there's a trigger, there's an inflection point, then there's the fake kind of manipulation, because this patriotism is so malleable because we love this country and no one wants to see Americans die. So all you got to do is just start throwing that out there, like blood and guts. The Middle East is soaked with their blood and everything. Again, do not question. I'm going to review the talking points at the end, because if you brought some of those talking points in, you could have a robust debate. There's never been a robust debate about the state of Israel that I'm aware of in our government. I'm not aware of one. I mean, I know people have tried it, but I also know, as a little tiny podcaster with a dozen listeners, I know that it falls on deaf ears. And then what happens is, and this is what happens with 9/11. This is what happens with COVID. This is what happens with a stolen election. People start losing friends. And people in the media, depending on your approach, you start losing influence or a job or whatever, or a career. And the people that run the propaganda machine circle the wagons. And that's why there's never any robust debate, because I can't blame people. You have to be crazy to want to interrupt the forces of Christian Zionism, Israel, and the United States as they continue to lock down the Middle East. You have to be crazy to question that, because you know what you're going to get called. And again, my heart is heavy because there will be loss of life, but it's the same thing. You understand we're going far away. You may not be aware of the threat, but we've seen intelligence that you haven't. You mean like yellow cake, weapons of mass destruction, babies in ovens? Is that what you're talking about? Horrific, terrifying talking points turned out to be lies. However, and then they wrap it up. All these people that are sending some kid, like my sons or your sons or daughters, to war, they pray for them. They say, well, that's just what happened. You got shot down probably by technology that we sold to Iran at another time, or Israel may have sold to Iran, or it's so incestuous. Okay. Like I said, the big winners from this war are bankers, followed by defense companies, and it's going to be big. And what it'll do is it'll pump up the stock market a little bit. And then the conservatives and the fake MAGA people can say, stock market's kicking butt, man. Get out there and vote for the midterms. Look at the stock market. And we'll have made an entire new chapter of history when we finally, and it was pretty much thanks to Trump in his first term, got the hell out of this war mindset. Remember? Trump was anti-war. He was like, bring these people home. What the F are we doing over there? We're doing other people's work. Let them do it. Remember Trump's lecture about NATO and Europe? Let Europe protect itself. Let them pay their dues, build their own army. We've come full circle. Now Trump is lecturing me at 3 a.m. on a Saturday morning about it's important that you send my neighbor's kid who just turned 21, you send him over there to protect France and to protect the Zionist in Israel. That's what Bibi would want. This is nuts. It really is. And if you want to weigh in, please do. And you can email me directly, ken@kenmatthewsmedia.com, or you can troll me or whatever. I'm all over social media. I get a lot of trolling lately. But if you're just going to call, you can also call. But if you're just going to leave messages that are with the talking points, you're just wasting your time. I know all the talking points. I've been in media for 45 years. I know how the scripts come across the desk of half the people in talk radio and news. I know what you're not allowed to say because they star it. And then when you say it, you get in deep crap. Stop talking about Biden, okay? Stop talking about Biden. Don't mention the stolen election anymore. Shut up. There's a First Amendment for a reason. And the fact that both parties have ruined the Constitution, this is how we're losing our republic. Let's go back and wrap it up with President Donald Trump.
Stay sheltered. Don't leave your home. It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance for generations. For many years, you have asked for America's help, but you never got it. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Now you have a president who is giving you what you want. So let's see how you respond. America is backing you with overwhelming strength and devastating force. Now is the time to seize control of your destiny and to unleash the prosperous and glorious future that is close within your reach. This is the moment for action. Do not let it pass. May God bless the brave men and women of America's armed forces. May God bless the United States of America.
Yes.
May God bless you all. Thank you.
Whew. Well, we saw it coming. And there it is. There it is. Now, I don't have time today, but we're going to deep dive a little bit more into this, and you'll see that so much of what he just said was gibberish and blather for the simple reason, have you seen the size of Iran? Do you know the population of Iran? See, this speech may have fit. It might have worked for Cuba. You know, telling everybody throw down your arms, telling the people. He just told millions and millions of people, take back your government. We've got your back. With what? What are you going to take? Are you going to run around with hammers and spears and stuff? Are you going to make homemade weapons? Iran is an unarmed population. There is no Second Amendment. Do you realize the absurdity of this? You will have people that are so hungry for freedom because they have been oppressed by a horrible regime in their country. They will sacrifice their life thinking that America will have their back, America will take care of their kids, America will take care of their cousin who's an interpreter with whatever battalion, and then you'll have Afghanistan again. This was a mistake, and it it's sad. Just remember the talking points this weekend. Zero criticism Israel, zero criticism of Israel. Do not mention the word Zionism. Do not talk about Charlie Kirk. And remember, if you don't immediately support this policy and put the right emoji on your social media, you're going to be called anti-American or pro-Hamas. Okay? Just that's how it works. If you criticize the latest attack on the Middle East, you're going to be called anti-American. You're going to be called liberal scum. You're going to be called, what are you? I can't believe you. What type of, don't you want the rage and the force and the power of the greatest military on earth aimed wherever Israel wants it aimed? No, I don't. I don't. And again, there will be that false sense of the economy's roaring back. There's freedom in Iran. The level of torture and horrific things taking place in Iran will now be extended, unfortunately. And if the truth ever gets out, but don't remember, you're not allowed to talk about it. If the truth ever gets out about what Zionists did to create the illusion that all Muslims hate Israel and hate America, the work that Zionists had to do to make Americans believe that, it's going to make you angry. It's going to break your heart. But for the time being, again, the propaganda will nullify it. So don't worry. Your pro-war friends don't have to do any critical thinking this weekend because everything from the Sunday shows to the GOP and the local state conservative, whatever, they'll all be blowing smoke up your tail saying this was the right move. This was not the right move. And unfortunately, we, the people, will pay for it because that's how it works. We, the people, pay for everything. And I mean, we pay for it in lives, those of Americans that are veterans. I was not a veteran, but you can bet your tail you're going to be paying for this. Your kids' grandkids are going to be paying for this. Oh, and before I forget, don't forget tax time is coming up. And there's a lot of missiles and weapons that there's a lot of upkeep. So thank you again for supporting the regimes. I'll see you soon.